back in the fall, he invited me to listen in as he shared his testimony with a bunch of high school students. And it was not 2-3 minutes in to where I knew in my heart, Southsiders really need to hear this. So you're in for a treat. So right now, I want you to help me welcome Jason Boer to our stage this morning.
Appreciate it. Right. Thank you. Good morning, Southside. I'm glad to be here. I'm excited. That worship team was great, and I just enjoy listening to them every Sunday morning. But like Brother Seth said, that I speak a lot to young people, and when I speak to them and give them my testimony, a lot of times it's in a school setting, so I'm not able to bring how the good Lord has been in my life and kind of molded and guided and directed me throughout my whole life. I'm not allowed to share that part of it because I'm in a public school setting a lot of times when I'm sharing my testimony. But thank you for allowing me to come up and share my testimony with everyone today. And hopefully you're touched by it. And learn a little bit about your new superintendent, Jason Boer, to Mercer County. Because when I moved here last July, my family, I didn't know one person in Mercer County. So it's joy to get to know a lot of you all, and we look forward to many years to come here in Harrodsburg and Mercer County. So thank you. So a little bit about me. I grew up in Radcliffe, Kentucky. I made it to Kentucky. My dad was a medevac helicopter pilot in the Army. He flew in Vietnam and then was stationed in Germany, and my mom and dad had me over there. So actually I was born on an Army base overseas in Germany. And then when I was 6 months old, my dad was stationed at Fort Knox down the road here about an hour and a half. And I've lived here ever since. So grew up in Radcliffe, Kentucky. And went to first grade, Parkway Elementary. Walked into school one morning, and I noticed this kid. I recognized Chad from the bus that I rode to school, and I introduced myself to him, and I said, "Hey, I noticed you was on my bus." He said, "Yeah, I just moved to Radcliffe from Hawaii. My dad's in the military," and I shared with him that's how I got to Kentucky as well. But me and Chad quickly became very best friends from first grade, that first day in Parkway Elementary class. And he was my best friend from really that day one when I met him. So we went to lunch, I don't know, a few days after that. It was in the fall, of course, when school started. And I met a kid named Terry. Well, I knew Terry. I recognized him because we had just played a Little League soccer game on Saturday. And I recognized Terry, and they were talking, all our friends and so forth were talking there at the lunch table. And I remember somebody asking, "Now, who won the game between you and Jason Saturday?" Well, Terry, and I don't know, I've never told him this story, but Terry's like, I think they beat us 6-0 or something. And just him telling all my friends that I got beat, I knew from that day forward, I knew I was the biggest competitor that there ever was. I could not stand losing and somebody be able to say that they won a game that we played against. So Terry doesn't know that story, but the thing about Terry, though, that was first grade. 2 years later, and when we was in third grade, me and Terry became really good friends. And Terry was talking to me about, "Hey, I think I'm going to go up at church at Stitton Baptist Church and get saved and ask Jesus into my life." And, my mom had always taken me to church on and off. We didn't go every Sunday, but we went a lot, went to Sunday school. But Terry really shared what he thought about Jesus and about how accepting him in his heart. And really, me and Terry went up that Sunday morning and accepted Jesus into our hearts and became Christians. But later to find out that I was his first person to help lead to Jesus, because now he went on, he's a preacher now in Radcliffe still, and I'm sure has helped lead many people to Jesus. But Terry, me and him went up. So I became a Christian at the young age of 8 years old. When I was in third grade, me and Terry walked up and got baptized together that next Sunday. So one thing I didn't learn when I became a Christian, I thought that once you walked up here and you gave your life to Christ, that life was great. There was nothing ever going to happen to us anymore. It was going to be all roses and just merry and everything. But I was an immature Christian, just like every other Christian that walks up and accepts a new Christian that accepts Jesus into their heart. No one ever told me that James 1:2-4 and read, "Consider it a great joy, my brothers, whenever you experience various trials." Let me get to that. "Consider it a great joy, my brothers, whenever you experience various trials." Well, I just thought, I'm a new Christian, and I walked up and got saved. I thought life was supposed to be great. Nothing happens to Christians, does it? Don't we all think that? But you read that again, "Consider it a great joy, my brothers, whenever you experience," and really take out various trials, and you can insert, "whenever you experience tragedy, adversity, addiction, various types of abuse, sickness, disease, divorce, temptation to still sin, disappointment, depression, catastrophe, failure, hardships, humiliation, misfortune." You can put all kinds of words in there in place of various trials. You see, once you become a Christian, it's not all roses. It's a lot of those words that I just read. We still go through all those things. So whenever you experience various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith will produce endurance, but endurance must do its complete work so that you may be mature, which I was immature at the time, and complete, lacking nothing. So I didn't realize that. I thought everything was going to be great. And so I was 8 years old. We kept going through Parkway Elementary and went to Radcliffe Middle School, 6th grade. And then I went to 7th grade. And then I finally got to my mom. Of course, my mom took me to all the Little League games and all the sporting events at the high school. And then she took me to the Sweet 16 my 7th grade year at Radcliffe Middle School in the springtime, about this time of the year in my 7th grade year. And I got to watch, I know many of you all that are my age or older remember old Richie Farmer there on the right and Allen Houston on the left. I got to watch them battle it out in the state championship game at the Sweet 16. Richie Farmer, my 7th grade year, got the best of him. I think he had like 52 points in the state championship game against Allen Houston. Allen Houston, of course, went on to play for the New York Knicks, and Richie Farmer played for Kentucky, and Rick Pitino. And I fell in love with the Sweet 16. I was like, I want to do exactly what Richie and Allen Houston just did and play in the state championship game and do what Richie did and cut down the nets. And my 8th grade year, my mom took me back to Rupp Arena in the Sweet 16, and the same two teams made it to the final, Louisville Ballard versus the Mountain School, Clay County. And I watched them two battle it out, and this time, my 8th grade year, Allen Houston got the best of Richie, and Ballard cut down the nets against Clay County. But I'll never forget, that was, really Terry, my 1st grade year, finding out how competitive I was just by him saying that they beat us, and then I'm going to do everything I can to put myself in a situation to win at everything we can do from now on. And then seeing this, my 7th and 8th grade year, I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to win the Sweet 16 so bad as a player, like Richie and Allen Houston did. So that was the end of my 8th grade year. Of course, I was practicing basketball and so forth, having fun. Just like I said, I didn't have any ups and downs of life, like the roller coaster that was up there. My friend from first grade on up to my 8th grade year, Chad, he came to school one Monday morning with me, and we was walking around, and the little girl I was talking to at the time, I guess you call her my little girlfriend, Cheryl, came up to me, and she went to a different church than I did on that Monday morning. And we was walking there, and she said, "Hey," she said, "I went to youth group last night, and they said at the end of our 8th grade year here, at the end of school, we're going to take a trip to Kings Island." Now, Kings Island was Cincinnati's about 3 hours up the road from Radcliffe, and they said you don't have to be a member of her church to go. So why don't you and Chad, why don't you all go around and get all our classmates or friends or your all's teammates on your teams, get all those signed up, parent permission form filled out, and then we'll go have a great time at the end of our school year going to Kings Island. It's kind of like a way to wrap up our middle school years. We was really looking forward to going to North Hardin High School. North Hardin High School at the time was the biggest public high school in the state of Kentucky. It was huge. It had a great athletic program, so I was excited about that. And so that's what me and Chad did. We headed up. We got a lot of people signed up. That Saturday morning came, May 14th, 1988, and we boarded this bus. The legal limit on this particular bus was 67. So that's how many people we put in there. We put 4 chaperones, 63 kids, and we packed in there. We took a few coolers, put them down the aisle. And this was already an older model bus. It was a 1976 model. Her church had bought it off at a public auction from a school system there locally. So we boarded that bus up, and we could care less. There were 64 kids, or 63 kids, 4 chaperones, and we were packed on there. It was hot, but we were just glad we were going to Kings Island for the whole day and getting turned loose for many hours to ride roller coasters. So we headed up 3 hours to Kings Island up the road. We got there. It was 75 and sunny, and in the middle of May, there's really not a lot of people there. So that's the best time to go to Kings Island, is when you can ride rides over and over and over, as many as you wanted to ride, never have to wait in a line, and that's what we did. And it was just, I always tell people, that was probably, up to that point in my life, probably the funnest day I'd ever had, just simply because I didn't have to hang around Mom and Dad. I got to hang around all my friends and buddies, and we just had a great time. It was unbelievable. That night, about 8 o'clock, the youth pastor had told us to meet at the Eiffel Tower. Many of y'all know that's in the middle of Kings Island. And they said at 8 o'clock, meet there underneath there, and we'll all get together, and then we'll walk out to the parking lot at Kings Island and go home, that 3-hour drive back home. So that's what we did. We met there at the base of the Eiffel Tower, walked out to the parking lot, got on that cramped bus, and we were just storytelling, talking about all the roller coasters that we rode for the day. And then the bus driver yelled out and said, all right, kids, we're getting low on fuel, so we're going to stop at the next exit going home towards Louisville on I-71. We're going to stop at the next exit, and we're going to fill up with gas. Now, this was an older model bus, so today's buses are mainly diesel. There is no unleaded fueled buses anymore, which is a lot more explosive than diesel. But by law, when you fill up a bus, you all have to get off the bus. So that's what we did. We got off the bus. We went in the convenience store, used the restroom, got something to drink or eat, and then we boarded the bus back up. For that, we had about 2 hours left at this point. So we boarded the bus back up, and you can see me. I'm right underneath 1988 right here. I'm about in the middle. I'm against the window. It looks like there's 4 to a seat. Remember, I told you we had a couple coolers out in the aisle. Actually, April, the 4th one that's listed there on my seat, was actually sitting on a cooler out in the aisle. And little did I know, when I sat there, the person that's sitting right behind me, Christy, was going to end up being Hillary, my wife's roommate at college. So I didn't know the girl sitting right behind me was one day going to be, which that's a whole nother story, because that's a blind date, and I don't do blind dates. So Christy set me up on a blind date with my wife. So the rest is history, I guess, and that's why me and her are here today. So, but Christy was sitting behind me, and that's who was going to be Hillary's roommate one day at Eastern Kentucky University. So we boarded the bus up, and we got back on I-71. It's about 10 o'clock at night now, so it's dark out there on the interstate. And we were glad the bus driver could care less how loud we were going to be. We were just reminiscing about the day, telling stories, and like I said, the roller coasters that we were riding. And we were just having a great time, fun, it was just great. And all of a sudden, all of us were slammed into the seat in front of us. And I hit that seat in front of me, and I was sitting about right here. So I was against the window here. This is a daytime picture, and of course it happened at 10 o'clock at night. So I hit that seat in front of me, and I was kind of startled at that time, and I gathered myself, so I hit it, and I sat up, looking straight ahead, and all of a sudden, after about a 2-second pause, it's something like you would only see on TV, that you would never think you would ever witness in your life. But I saw a huge explosion up here, big ball of fire up here, just the front of the bus explode, and then a big roaring flame came down the outside all the way back to the back of the bus. And then when that happened, Chuck Keita, now of course it was packed on that bus, and this is illegal now, but Chuck Keita, it was so crowded, he said, I'll just sit in the stairwell, right on the steps there where you're not supposed to be, and because it was so crowded. But that's where the explosion happened. So the youth director that sponsored the trip, Chuck Keita, I think he was 35 years old. I'll never forget it, because when I hit that seat in front of me, I gathered myself, looking up, that big explosion, big ball of fire coming right beside my ear on the outside of the window. Chuck Keita was immediately engulfed in flames. And I'll never forget it, because he yelled it to the top of his lungs. He put his arms out and said, Lord, I'm coming home. And to witness something like that at 13 years old was indescribable. I can't even describe what it looked like. But I knew then something was tragically happening on that bus. So I had to get out. Now remember, if you all are my age or older, you all remember the old buses. You know, they had full seats in the back, okay? Where now they got half seats. All the buses now have pop-out windows, pop-out doors. They got ceiling openings at the top, 2 of them on each bus now. Flame retardant seats put over each seat. They got cages around gas tanks. All those things we didn't have on this bus. There was only 2 ways to get off this bus, and one of which was already engulfed in flames up front. So the only way we could get out, because like I said, if you're my age or older, you remember those windows on them old buses, you try to get, they're only about this wide, and you try to do one, and the left side would come down, but the right side would be stuck. So going out the window wasn't an option either. So 67 of us had to get out that one door. Well, we've always had bus evacuation drills growing up, and they were all nice, neat, orderly fashion. You know, each year you got to do 2 of them by law. But this bus, I always say that you've opened up an oven door before and felt what, like 400 degrees feels like hitting you in the face. You could imagine putting your hand in there and touching the walls of a 400-degree oven. This bus in 90 seconds was over 1,500 degrees. 90 seconds, 1,500 degrees. You know, I learned the other day, I listened to one of the officers that reconstructed the crash, and he was saying that how quickly all the paint on the ceiling melted and it became streaming down on all of us. That melted paint, kind of like candle wax dripping from the tops of the roof there, or the ceiling of the bus. So 67 of us had to get out that one door right there, and there was coolers in the aisles. So all the kids were pushing and shoving to get down there, but the coolers were at their feet. So it was like a domino effect because they were getting tripped up on the coolers. So it was domino down there. So what I did is I was against the window, of course, and instead of going down the aisle, I turned around and I stepped on a few seats to get down the left side. And then when I got to the back of the bus, there was kids already piled up to about right there. So I saw that opening of that top, and I just dove out the top, and you can see where I landed at the back of the scene here, about where that red cooler is. I dove out here and hit this. So when I turned around, all these kids are piled up all the way to the top of the door by now. I'm pulling, and kids are screaming. I'm getting burned. You know, I need my mom, my dad. I'm going to die. Get me out of here. All the screams you could imagine. So we're pulling kids. Both lanes of traffic, north and southbound lanes, have already stopped. There's about a 20-foot wide median between the north and southbound lanes. 1,500 degrees in 90 seconds. We're pulling these kids out, and they are burnt severely. I'm talking about not like sunburns like we get when we go to the beach in the summertime. I'm talking about skin, all the cartilage, ears, nose, eyelids, all that gone. They are burnt severely. So we're pulling all these kids out. Of course, the flames are everywhere, smoke's everywhere, and we're laying all these burn victims down in the grass over there between the north and southbound lane. These truckers, you can see the trucks stop back in the background. They're bringing these coolers over, dipping towels down in the ice water and laying it out on all the burn victims that we're laying out all across the grass. And we just tried to get all the ones we could out. So I could see about 4 feet and 5 feet in the back of the bus there. That's about all the visibility I could see. And I thought we had everybody out because that little area was cleared. So once we got that cleared, I ran over to the grass median. Of course, there's kids lined out everywhere, burnt severely. And I saw Christy, which I recognized her because Cheryl, the little girl I was sitting with, her cousin, Cheryl was bent down talking to Christy. So Christy was burnt really bad. So I knelt down, and I was just kind of motivating Christy, saying, "You're going to make it. You're going to get through this. You're going to be okay. Just hang in there. We'll get you in a helicopter," because helicopters, ambulances, and all that was flying in. And then I looked over my shoulder, and somebody dropped out late. So I said, "Cheryl, let's go." So we ran over to the back of that bus where that red cooler was, and somebody was just laying there. And it ended up being a girl named Carrie. Of course, she was burnt so severely I couldn't tell if it was a boy or a girl who it was. So I said, "Cheryl, you grab her legs and I'll grab her hands and we'll carry her over and get her away from the bus," because the bus, of course, you can imagine how hot it was. It was really hard to get close to it at that time. So Cheryl, I grabbed her by her wrist. Cheryl grabbed her by her ankles. And she dropped him real quick. And I said, hurry, Cheryl, we got to get her out of the way from this bus quickly. She said, no, Jason, you don't understand. Her legs are so hot that they're burning my hands. Later to find out they were able to save one of her legs, but the other one was straight down all the way to the bone. Everything was burnt, gone. It ended up being Carrie Arntz, and she was the last one. So I scooped her in my arms, cradled her over here, ran over to the grass median, and when I laid her down, I thought she was number 67. I was like, oh, we got them. And like I said, there's helicopters, ambulances, fire trucks, police cars, all the sirens, taking all these kids out now. I'm sure it was just a few minutes, but it seemed like forever. But I thought when I laid her down, she was number 67. I still didn't know why I'd hit the seat in front of me, why the bus exploded. I had no clue what had happened. Why did we get to the point where we're at now? So I got to the hospital. They took me. Luckily, the good Lord saved me from getting any injuries at all. They treated me for breathing all that smoke inhalation. But I was one of the few that didn't have any burns at all on my body. So I was trying to find out what had happened. So I was there, like I said, this was Saturday night into Sunday morning, into Sunday afternoon. And I'm finally starting to read the news. And what had happened was this guy right here named Larry Mahoney. He was a local high school dropout his sophomore year. He worked at a factory there locally near the bus crash. And he went to a bar, had a few drinks, went to another bar, had a few more drinks, went to his best friend's house after that, had a few more drinks, and then he let that best friend convince him that he was sober enough to drive home, which was just a few blocks down the road. And that best friend handed those keys over to him, and then he got on the northbound lane, or in the southbound lane going towards Louisville. He was going northbound towards Cincinnati, and that's where he hit our bus. You can see the path of the truck. Well, if you know where a fuel tank is on a school bus, it's right behind where you enter the bus at. Well, look where he hit us at, right there where the school, and we had just filled up with unleaded gas, like 50 gallons. So where the explosion happened and that ball of fire happened coming down the side, he hit it, punctured the 50 gallons of gas, and it splashed all the way down the side. And that's how the explosion and the ball of fire happened. And I was learning this is what happened, and I didn't know that. So you can see here his brand new Toyota Tacoma pickup truck. I learned on Sunday that he was in the University of Louisville hospital in one of the isolated rooms, and he survived, which is amazing because both of us were going about 60 miles an hour down the interstate. But he survived out of that crash. There's another picture. That's the famous picture, I guess, that when they talk about the bus crash, that's the one you always see usually. This is the one, this next one, I see that and I'm like, I don't know how any of us got out of that. I really don't. After seeing what I saw and then seeing the aftermath and what it was once everything was cleared and there was light on it, I don't know how any of us ever got out. But I thought when I laid Carrie Arntz down that she was number 67 and we all got out. But learning Sunday into Sunday night, I found out that she wasn't number 67. So when you go on the interstate now between Louisville and Cincinnati on I-71, you'll notice that it has this green sign, site of fatal bus crash, May 14, 1988. Because when I laid her down, she was only number 40. She was only number 40. So quick math, 27 people, 3 chaperones, 24 kids didn't make it out of that bus. But what about killed me at 13 years old is when I learned from 27 of those that didn't make it out was also my best friend from the first grade all the way through my 8th grade year that about killed me at 13 years old. Is to think that he was sitting right beside me on the bus. He tried to go down the aisle, probably got tripped up on those coolers I was talking about. He was probably at the bottom of the stack of the pile that I talked about. And that was a really, really, really hard thing for me to learn of my best friend and those 26 others. So over the next week, could you imagine like in Harrisburg or Mercer County having 27 funerals in 1 week? It was unbelievable. We're carrying 3 of our 8th grade friends out here. We had multiple funerals at the same time. You can see the 3 hearse lined up on the right side. It was just indescribable in the life of me and all those around us that were involved in this right here. So I was about to graduate from Radcliffe Middle School, 8th grade, get to go to high school. I had my 4 funnest years, supposed to be, coming in front of me when you go to high school. I had no clue what just hit me. And I was an immature Christian. So what's the first thing I'm going to think? Why in the world would the good Lord let a church bus that went to Cincinnati get hit and 27 of us not make it out, and the 40 of us, about 30 of them have to go through multiple skin surgeries just to have skin grafts and eyelids and reconstruction on their ears? Why would that happen? I was mad at the good Lord because I was immature and didn't understand that. I didn't know about trials, various trials and endurance. I had never heard of that before. So I became angry and mad and mad at the Lord. But I also knew, hey, I had some goals and dreams in life, and that I wasn't going to let this bus crash define me and take away all my goals and dreams. See, later on, my parents ended up getting a divorce. They lost everything financially. Nobody in my family had ever been to college. I wanted to win the Sweet 16 as a player like Richie and Allen Houston. And I was never going to let Larry Mahoney and this tragedy ever take away my goals and dreams. So I looked at a young age, I looked in the mirror, I'll never forget it, and say, look, if alcohol and drugs have had that big of an impact on my life already, I'd never tasted alcohol, experimented with drugs up to that point in my life at 13. I said, I'm going to go to my grave one day, and at my funeral, they'll be able to say, I know him because he's told thousands of kids that you can have as much fun in life than anybody without alcohol and drugs, because I've lived it, breathed it, and done it. And I've never tasted it, never experimented with it. So I always tell young people when I talk to them that you can have fun without that stuff. But I went on through high school without that stuff, having a great time. We made it to the Sweet 16 my sophomore year at Freedom Hall, and we got beat out first round. So there was my dreams and goal. I'm like, oh, because I didn't know if we was ever going to make it back. Next year, we had everybody back about from that team, and we were pretty good. Top, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 ranked in the state the whole year. We made it to Rupp Arena, won the first game, and I'm like, oh, we're 3 games away from cutting down the nets. And then we had a team, and this is why I'm a proponent for having a shot clock in high school basketball. They held the ball on us, and they upset us in the second round. And then my senior year, we didn't make it back. So there it was. I was crushed that I wasn't able to do what Richie and Allen Houston did. So I went on to college, first person in my family to ever step foot on a college campus at the University of Kentucky over at Lexington. I chose to be in education because I wanted to give back to young people what coaches and teachers gave to me after the bus crash through high school. I wanted to give back to them just like they gave to me. They were one of the reasons why the good Lord, of course, was number 1. Basketball was probably number 2, and coaches and teachers were number 3. I wanted to give back to young people what they gave to me. So that's why I chose to be, and plus the other reason I wanted to win the Sweet 16. If I didn't get to do it as a player, I want to do it as a coach, and coaches rarely get to do that, but I know the odds were stacked against me, but you might as well have a goal and dream and work towards that, and I always felt that way. So anyways, of course, I met my wife, like I told you, through Christy, who survived. Her dad was the bus driver of the bus, and he didn't make it out, but Christy was Hillary's roommate, and we ended up getting married. I moved around the state of Kentucky, climbing the coaching ranks, and not only did I do that, but I also started becoming closer to the Lord. I've started, when I'm still an immature Christian, but I've started to become more and more and more mature. And as I'm finally made it back to, but we finally made it to a school, Shelby Valley, which is a little school right outside of Pikeville in eastern Kentucky, which is where my wife's from, at Pikeville. And so I was at Shelby Valley coaching. Of course, I was becoming closer and closer to the Lord, grew in my faith. I understood some things that happen now that I didn't understand back then. And one thing that I learned was James 1:12, blessed is a man who endures trials. And boy, did I endure some trials over the last few years, because when he passes the test, he will receive the crown of life that he has promised to those who loved him. That's a great verse, knowing that as Christians, we're going to go through all kinds of trials, but the reward is in the end. That's the reward. And I learned that. So I was the FCA leader at Shelby Valley. We went on a lot of little fun trips, whitewater rafting and bicycle rides up in the mountains with the FCA. I became a deacon at not Stitton Baptist Church. That's what I grew up with Pikeville, First Baptist Church of Pikeville. Became a deacon there. And my faith grew. I grew closer and closer to the Lord. But you know what? As I grew closer and closer to the Lord, more success started happening. That's what was amazing. It was almost like the good Lord was like, you went through all that stuff. I'm gonna let you have a little fun. So we got this good little team coming through the mountains of Eastern Kentucky. You know, little Eastern Kentucky teams aren't supposed to be very good in basketball when they get to the state tournament. But we won the All-A, which you all probably know what the All-A is. It's for the little small schools state tournament. We won the region there in 15th region, so we made it to the Eastern Kentucky University, where they have the All-A state championship each year at EKU in February. And so in 2009, we made it there. We won 3 games and we're in the state championship game. I'm like, oh, here I got a shot at finally getting a ring and winning a state championship and checking off one of my goals and dreams. And we were able to win. We were able to win the 2009 All-A state championship. And you could see on the right, the 2 guys in the middle, 42 and 23, they were 6'9" and 6'7". That was our 2 seniors. So we lost our bigs, and of course you can see over here on the right, we finished the season ranked number 1 in the state of Kentucky. We made it to Rupp Arena, and we won a game, so we was 3 games away, and got beat out. But I knew we had about our whole team back for the next year. So one of my challenges was them just work your tails off and let's give it a shot again next year. We finally got the monkey off our back and we won a game at Rupp Arena, unlike most Eastern Kentucky teams do. It's usually a token appearance when you go. So we took that team in 2010, went back to Richmond at the All-A state tournament, and we were able to win the state championship again. So it was unbelievable to be back-to-back All-A state champs, 2009, 2010, and it was something that's never been done by a 15th region team before. And so we were excited, just ecstatic, and I went back in the locker room, and I challenged them, and I said this, and I knew the odds were stacked against, just like I knew the odds were stacked against me after the bus crash and my parents getting a divorce and being an at-risk kid, and no one in my family ever been to college. No one had ever won the boys basketball state championship in the All-A in February, and then a month later in March won the big one at Rupp Arena. So I said, let's not even talk about winning back-to-back All-A state championships over the next month. We got 1 month together because most of them were seniors. And I said, we got 1 month together. So let's not celebrate because I want your legacy to be that you all did something that no one's ever done before. And that's to win the All-A state championship in February, and then 1 month later go to Rupp Arena and cut down the nets. Now, in the back of my mind, when I was telling them, I'm like, that's never happened before. The odds aren't very good for this. I know that. And usually All-A state championship teams they fizzle out because they're content with what had happened in February. And they lose sight of the big picture, and that's getting to Rupp Arena and then winning 4 games there to win the whole thing. But those guys, that's what they did. They went back in the gym for a month, and they were determined to get back to Rupp Arena. And we made it to Rupp Arena. We won the first game, so now we're 3 away. We won the second game, and then we won the third game. And I'm like, wow, this little Eastern Kentucky team from the mountains of Eastern Kentucky is in the state championship game. They turned the lights off that Saturday night, and we were lined up across the free throw line, and the other team was across the free throw line on the other end of the floor. And I'm like, wow, this is like reminiscing back to my 7th and 8th grade year because we're the mountain school like Clay County was, and guess who we're playing? Louisville Ballard. And of course, Ballard's ranked number 1 or 2 the whole year. And we're the little old mountain school of Eastern Kentucky playing the big city school from Louisville Ballard. It's kind of like David and Goliath. It's kind of like the Kentucky version of Hoosiers, the movie Hoosiers, if you've seen that. But you know that little team right there, they went out and battled Louisville Ballard. And that night, March 20th, in 2010, at the end of that game, we were able to cut down the nets. That guy right there, that's Mr. Basketball. He played for Rick Pitino, Elijah Justice. He's now the He's now the head coach. I hired him when I was at Pikeville High School as the principal, as our new basketball coach. And he just led them a few Sundays ago. I snuck out early because they made it to All A. And he won a state championship a couple weeks ago for Pikeville, their first basketball state championship. But that's my extended family, and we were able to make history and win two championships in the same year. And I told them, guys, we'll buy 2 big rings. So they were saying, well, some people's going to say we have to put both of them on the same ring. I said, we're not doing that. We're going to have 2. We're going to have an All A, and we're going to have a big Sweet 16 one. And so they enjoyed that. This is my favorite family photo. That's Hillary there, and that's, of course, Harrison Jules, a little bit bigger than that now. That trophy was taller than both of them, and of course, they're a lot taller than that now. But that was my favorite family photo. And then this is at half court at Rupp Arena at center court, and I'm laying a big kiss on that trophy. I got to be careful when my wife's in the building, because this is one of my favorite kisses ever, okay? One of my favorite kisses. But I want to show you that picture, because when I'm at half court kissing that picture at Rupp Arena, I'm sitting there thinking, it's not, hey, this has been unbelievable. We just broke history. We made basketball Sweet 16 history by winning the All A, and that. It's not all that. What I'm thinking when I'm kissing that trophy right there, I'm sitting there thinking, all the trials, all the things that I had to go through just to accomplish a goal and a dream. And that's what's going through my mind there, because that's what life's all about. Even if you're a Christian, you've got to go through that stuff. The roller coasters of life, I call it. That's what it's all about. So I had a tear coming down my eyes, or probably tears coming down my cheeks when I'm kissing that trophy, just thinking, man, to endure through all that stuff that I just talked to you all about and more, just to accomplish your goals and dreams. That's what life is about. So then, of course, my mom's in the middle there. Hillary's mom's on the left, and one of the assistant coaches is on the right. His wife is on the right. My mom was there she's one of my biggest cheerleaders. Of course, she took me to all the Little League games, and she was always the loudest one. She embarrassed me a lot of times because she yelled so loud, but my friends and teammates loved her, And so I was glad she was able there. She was excited. Of course, Hillary's parents were there. But it's just like I told you, that life is like a roller coaster and it has ups and downs. That was March of 2010, that excitement happened, that we were able to do all that. 6 months later, she calls me, and she's my mom. She calls me and says, my stomach's hurting. It's kind of hard, and I need to go get it checked out. On October 1st, she called me and said, they just diagnosed me with pancreatic cancer, and I don't have long to live. And 2 months later, on December 1st, 2010, she passed away from pancreatic cancer. Life's ups and downs. But you know what? I learned a lot as a Christian, because back when I was in middle school and I went through the bus crash, I was mad at the Lord. I didn't understand all this stuff. But you know what? A more mature Jason Boer as a Christian, when I heard that my mom had passed away, I was, instead of being mad at the Lord, you know what I did? Thank you, Lord. Thank you. I'm so glad she got to see 3 state championships and her son do that. All the things that she got to do for me, I was blessed. And that's the difference between an immature Christian and a mature, knowing that you can be blessed and look at the positives that come out of things as opposed to the negatives and be mad at the Lord. Because it's all about those various trials, all about being endurance that we talked about. That's life's ups and downs. And I was hit with another one, but I was able to deal with it a lot better than I was the first time around. So some positives that came out of the bus crash, like I said, I look back, stiffer drinking and driving laws. That's one big thing that I didn't see as through high school, that any positives whatsoever were going to come out of the bus crash. Bus safety. Our buses today, it's every one of those safety features that I talked about earlier. The reason why our buses are the way they are today is because of the bus crash. All the safety features on there. Our buses are so much more safe today than they were back then. So that's that's number 2 on the things that have come positive. Number 3, of course, we go around, a few of the survivors go around and speak to and tell our testimony to people. And I love giving it to the young people because I like to tell them and look them in the eye that there's a guy standing in front of you that's had as much fun in life than anybody and never tasted alcohol, never experimented with drugs, and you can do it because I'm standing here in front of you and telling you that I can. So the education piece is number 3 that came out of it. And I guess number 4, tied on the education piece. Now, I'm getting older, my body's starting to break down. I got a bad back and hips and everything else. But I'm trying to raise awareness for the consequences of drinking and driving by running all the 6 world major marathons in dedication. And I told you 27 people didn't make it out of the bus crash, including my best friends. Well, a marathon is 26.2 miles. That's how long a marathon is. So you think about it. Here's what I've done on the back of my jersey. Here you could see me running the Berlin Marathon. That was my first world major, and that's the jersey, the singlet. The front says, "Do not drink and drive, survivor of our nation's worst DUI crash." And then on the left, I've dedicated every mile to every kid, and that's in alphabetical order. Mile 1 to Jennifer Arnett, mile 2, Cindy Atherton, all the way down to mile 26. But then I've got that sprint to the finish, that 0.2 when I really, really need some help, and I'm feeling like I'm going to die. But that last sprint to the finish, 0.2, is for my best friend, Chad Witt, that was sitting with me in the seat. So just a great tribute to them, but I'm wanting to do that to raise awareness. I ran Berlin. I ran London, I ran New York City, and so next up is Boston in April, so I'll run the Boston Marathon in April, Chicago in the fall, and then I got to somehow get in Tokyo. It'll be my last one. So that was just another positive that's coming out of the bus crash, is trying to raise awareness for the consequences of drinking and driving. And so I'll leave you with this, just a couple other verses here on endurance. We rejoice in our suffering, which is amazing. We rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope. And hope does not put us to shame because God's love has been poured into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has been given to us. And then the last one, I know you hear this one a lot, but life is like a roller coaster. And Romans 8:28 tells us we know that all things work together, regardless of how bad that roller coaster is, for the good of those who love God, those who are called according to His purpose. And as an immature Christian, a lot of times I always thought about what's my purpose, my plan. And we often forget that it's His purpose and His plan. So I hope you enjoyed that testimony today. I know Seth's going to go over in room number 2 here to my left, your right. And that's my prayer, is that I hope everybody in here has that relationship with the good Lord. You never know when something like this is ever going to happen to you, and your life can be swept out from underneath you in a blink of an eye. So I pray for anybody that doesn't know the good Lord. He's been great in my life. He has blessed me beyond anything that I ever deserve. But it has taken years. It's not weeks and months, but years to become a more mature, I got a long way to go, but a more mature Christian than when I first accepted Jesus into my life. So next up, I guess we're going to sing behind me. I really wish I could sing. That would be one of those things that, like, one of my goals and dreams. I wish I could sing like Sebastian and Mark and them guys behind. You know, I love the song Evidence. It reminds me, it just radiates through me. So I wish I could sing it, Sebastian, but I've asked you to sing it for me today. No, I can't do that. So part of my prayer is going to be the lyrics from Evidence, the song that he's going to sing. So this time, if I ask for everybody just to please bow with me, and then we'll sing the song. Dear Lord, all throughout my history, your faithfulness has walked right beside me. The winter storms made way for spring in every season from where I'm standing. I see the evidence of your goodness, Lord, all over my life. I see your promises in fulfillment, Lord, all over my life. Help me remember when I'm weak. Fear may come, but fear will leave. You lead my heart to victory, Lord. You are my strength, and you always will be. I see the evidence of your goodness all over my life. I see your promises in fulfillment all over my life. See the cross, the empty grave, which we are so thankful for, dear Lord. Your evidence is endless. All my sin rolled away because of you, O Jesus. I see the evidence of your goodness, Lord, all over my life. I see your promises in fulfillment all over my life, and oh, thank you, Lord. So why should I fear? The evidence is here. Why should I fear? Oh, the evidence is clear. Lord, life has many ups and downs. My prayer is for anyone who does not know you, for them to surrender their life to you. For those that are struggling through a difficult time, I pray for them to feel your presence and know that you are with them and will never leave them. Life is all about, you're either about to go through something bad, tragic, adversity, or you're going through it, or you just got out of it. Thank you, Lord, for always working things out for the good, for those that love, and according to your, not our, but your purpose. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.